All right, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Mayor's Council meeting of March 2nd, 2023. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge with respect the Indigenous nations on whose territories we are fortunate to live, work, and operate. The agenda has been distributed, it's before you, and I'll seek a motion to adopt the agenda. So moved, seconded, all those in favor, opposed, and carried. Approval of our minutes of the January 26th meeting, moved and seconded, all those in favor, opposed, carried. We're going to begin, as we always do, with hearing from delegates. We have 3 today. Their presentation is in front of us. As a general rule, no questions or discussion with the council, and you have 3 minutes. And the first speaker is William Dawson. William Dawson. Okay, we'll move on to our second speaker and come back to him. Second speaker is Harvey Sue.
Thank you. Good morning, mayors and council members. My name is Harvey Sue, founder of the WCE Expansion Association. WCE Expansion Association is a non-for-profit organization advocating for the West Coast Express service expansion. We are taking initiatives to engage citizens, organizations, and TransLink, along with all 3 levels of government, to raise public awareness and encourage urgent action to expand the West Coast Express service. The West Coast Express service commuter train started operation on November 1st, 1995. While the population of Tri-Cities has grown from 170,000 in 1996 to 243,000 in 2021, with a projected population of 400,000 in 2050. And the combined population of Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley is now nearly 3 million people. The West Coast Express continues to be a unidirectional commuter service, running Monday to Friday in rush hour only. Its inconvenient schedule makes the West Coast Express inaccessible to public. The rapidly expanding communities served by the West Coast Express deserve a much-needed, long overdue expansion. We are asking that the West Coast Express expansion be added to the proposed 2023 committee work plan, and we have the following specific requests. Request 1, extend the unidirectional service in the morning and evening by 1 hour each, add 1 midday service, and service during weekends and public holidays. Request 2, add bidirectional service between Port Coquitlam and Waterfront Vancouver, with 1 more station in Burnaby and 1 more station at Hastings Park in Vancouver. Request 3, add bidirectional service between Coquitlam and Mission Cities, with 1 more station at Albion in Maple Ridge. Request 4, add dedicated TransLink-owned tracks to allow all-day bidirectional West Coast Express service. Based on the current ridership pattern change, we are asking the Mayor's Council to consider starting with a pilot project running the West Coast Express service between Port Coquitlam and Vancouver during the weekend and public holidays. We believe that the West Coast Express expansion will attract more people to use public transportation, help reduce carbon emissions, contribute to a more sustainable economic growth, and turn those bedroom communities into complete communities. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Seuss. The most number of times anyone has said Port Coquitlam other than me. So I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I know the Mayor's Council understands how important that service is and will reflect upon your presentation. Thank you. William Dawson, have you arrived? Okay. Nathan Davidovich.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the Mayor's Council. Is this okay? The mic? The proposed new model of the Mayor's Council committees can improve transit in Metro Vancouver. However, it is far from the basic Transit Bill of Rights that promotes safe, accessible, affordable, reliable, and environmentally sustainable public mass transportation. We need a transit authority that is transparent, open-minded, inclusive, respectful, empathic, and accessible to all riders. Having closed committees meetings and no night meetings is not transparent. Since TransLink was changed in 2008 without the support of any municipal councils, the transparency of this authority has gone down. Imagine if this was done in every municipality, there would have been a revolt by all taxpayers. Very few of the councillors or mayors use transit on a daily basis compared to Montreal and Toronto, where at least 50% of the elected officials use transit daily. You get most of your transit information from new staff who do not know the sad history of transit over the past 50 years in Metro Vancouver. And so something has to be changed this year, and hopefully you come up with some new proposals to the government to make some changes, because as you well know, the previous minister, George Heyman, didn't want to do anything, basically. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. For a final time, William Dawson. Okay, moving on. The next item is a report of the chair and vice chair. I want to share with you a brief update on activities that Vice Chair Hurley and myself have been involved in since our last meeting when we approved our federal budget submission. In meetings and media interviews, our message to the public and to other levels of government has been simple. Your support has allowed us to survive the pandemic and preserve transit to keep our region moving, particularly for essential frontline workers and to those most dependent on transit without other options to get around. But our challenge is no longer about just surviving the effects of the pandemic. Public transit has long been seen by most residents as a basic utility, like electricity, drinking water, or roads, an essential service that keeps our cities moving, working, and successful. This region is growing faster than it ever has, and as long as we are stuck in survival mode, our transit system will not be able to keep pace with demand. We've seen the fastest ridership recovery in North America. Our system is already over capacity in fast-growing communities south of the Fraser and in the eastern parts of our region. These are also the places that provide some of our region's most affordable housing and employment opportunities as well, often to new Canadians. Our overcrowding problem there will not be short-lived. With record level of federal immigration targets and a growing population, the demands on our transit system are only going to increase. Think about it. 50,000 people a year. That's why the Mayor's Council is asking the federal government to renew its partnership with the region and with our provincial government. We've submitted a pre-budget proposal to Canada's Minister of Finance calling for critical investments to support TransLink's financial recovery and, more importantly, keep our new transit expansion plan on track. We're asking the federal government to speed up the delivery of the Permanent Transit Fund by 2 years to 2024. This will ensure we don't have to delay projects we've committed to in the 10-year priorities, including bus rapid transit throughout our region, the largest expansion of bus service into every part of Metro Vancouver, as well as moving forward on a number of important rapid transit projects. The province has responded very favorably to our proposal to the federal government, and I know that they're committed to ensuring Metro Vancouver residents have the options they deserve. We all share the same goal, to make our region more sustainable, more affordable, more connected for everyone. And we're looking forward to our conversations with federal and provincial counterparts into the future. I also want to share that Mayor Hurley and I have been in Victoria twice since our last meeting to meet with Minister Fleming and his colleagues. I think they have heard our message loud and clear, and we're hoping to hear more from them on our requests in the coming weeks. We also know the federal government will be releasing its budget in several weeks, and we'll be looking forward to seeing how they have responded to our ask that they work with us to grow transit service in Canada's biggest cities. We need them to be at the table alongside the province and us, as they have been in the past, so that we can build the options that our residents need now and in the future. We do have a long road ahead of us to secure the commitments and support that we need to roll out our 10-year priorities and improve transit and transportation to our region. But I think we're off to a good start. Our message is being heard, and the public is with us. I'll end my remarks there and just turn to Vice Chair Hurley if he has anything he'd like to add.
Well, thank you, and I'm not going to repeat what Mayor West has said. I think you've all heard the comments on the media and out there. So I'm just going to report on our board activities since we last met, and there only has been one board meeting since we last met, and that was a strategy session on February 8th. And the topics included enterprise risk management reporting framework, which included the top 10 2023 enterprise risks we may be facing. We had an update on plans for transition to zero emissions transit fleet that caused much discussion, and an update on the timing of our next investment plan, and an advocacy update from our public affairs team. We also spoke about the approval of the Joint Governance Task Force terms of reference, and we also participated in a joint meeting with the Mayor's Council Finance Committee on February 3rd, and the topic was the next investment plan for TransLink. That's really all I have to add to what Brad has said, and we're moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. Now, welcome any comments or questions from the Mayor's Council. Mayor Buchanan.
Thank you very much, both to you, Chair West and Mayor Hurley. I just want to reinforce your message in terms of what we have at stake here and what we need to be doing as we move forward over the next several months and over this term. As you said, our population is expected to grow by 1 million. I think we potentially could see that population is going to even grow higher given the accelerated targets of immigration that the federal government is looking at. 50,000 people a year is like absorbing my city, the city of North Vancouver, into the region every single year. So we need to have a very robust transportation system to every corner of this region in order to meet not only the needs of people, but meet the needs of our economy, the environment, and just the livability of our region. And I think the work that you're doing, both as chair and vice chair, with the province and the comments you've been making in the media, and I know we're embarking on some further intergovernment relations work moving forward, is going to be absolutely critical. This is, why we're making this formal request. It is core. This is a core service, and we saw that through the pandemic, where essential service workers were often not able to get to what we call essential services because they could not get, they don't have a car. They rely on our system, and they couldn't use our system because we couldn't deliver as much as we possibly could, or couldn't have them running as much as we possibly could. So we need that predictable, permanent funding. We need it now. I think it's really behooves all of us to really speak to, regardless of what side of the house our our other levels of government sit on, it doesn't matter. If it's an essential service, it doesn't matter who's sitting as the government at the moment. They all need to be at the table. They all need to take responsibility, and they all should be supporting the government that needs to be putting the money on the table at the moment. But they all need to be there. We don't say we can't fund healthcare. We've just seen record historical levels of funding come for healthcare. We actually are offering a system that's going to support a return on investment on decreasing healthcare costs. So I think the work is ahead of us. I think we are doing significant, you've done significant work so far, early out of the gate, and I want us to continue to do that work. And I'm happy to be helping any way I can in doing that. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Buchanan. Are there any other comments, questions? It's been moved. Seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Now we have the first of 3 reports from the Planning and Priorities Committee chaired by Mayor Eric Woodward. First item is on bus speed and reliability. It's on page 8 of your agenda package, and I'll turn it over to Sarah Ross.
Good morning, and thank you, Mayor West. Joining me today is Stephen Newhouse, who's the lead planner in our bus speed and reliability program. A key priority of Transport 2050 is that we improve the convenience, the experience, the reliability of taking transit. And a key part of that is reducing the delay to buses so that people who take the bus spend less time stuck in traffic, and so that we are making the most efficient use of public funds. A program that is set out in the investment plan is the Bus Speed and Reliability Program, where we work with municipalities to implement transit priority measures to reduce delay to buses. And we take a very data-driven approach to that. And I'm going to pass it to Stephen now, who's going to walk through the slides in your material and speak to the analysis that is really foundational to this work.
Sarah, thank you for that introduction, and thank you to my colleagues, Peter Stair and Alan Shee, who have led the development of this report. And I want to thank the Mayor's Council for the opportunity to talk about the 2023 Bus Speed and Reliability Report. So today I'm going to share information about the purpose of this report, the context around it, and a summary of the key findings. And I want to underscore that this is important because bus delay is an expensive and ongoing challenge for TransLink, for our customers, and for the region as a whole. And this report helps us communicate those challenges as well as solutions, and will help us work with municipalities to target future bus priority investments where they'll be most impactful. So in 2019, TransLink published the first bus speed and reliability report to quantify the impacts of delay on our customers and our operating cost, to identify the causes of delay and best practice solutions for mitigating them with bus priority measures, to distinguish the important roles between TransLink and our municipal partners in developing those bus priority measures, and finally to highlight several corridors where delay had the greatest impact on our customers. But of course, a lot has changed since 2019. So in 2023, we're updating this report to refresh the underlying data, to identify some lessons that we've learned from the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown, to share the results of the bus priority measures that have been delivered so far, and to support significant new funding for municipalities to deliver bus priority measures as identified in Transport 2050. So we care about bus delay because it affects most of our customers. 2/3 of individual transit trips and 3/4 of transit journeys are by bus. And during the pandemic, we observed that bus ridership remained strong and rebounded faster than any other mode. And in fact, even today at 83% recovery, bus ridership is currently greater than the pre-pandemic ridership of all other transit modes combined. And the speed and reliability of these bus trips has a direct impact on the lives of the people in our communities. It affects their ability to get to work or to school or to medical appointments or to run errands on time. And it can even limit their access to make those trips if the trip is too long or unreliable. So simply put, slow and unpredictable bus service forces people to plan their lives around their travel rather than plan their travel around their lives. But fortunately, Coast Mountain Bus Company works diligently to maintain reliable bus service, and that includes adjusting bus schedules to match the travel conditions on the roadway. But that also means that as traffic increases, so does the cost of operating bus service, to the tune of $2 to $7 million per year. So for example, compared to 2014, our annual operating costs have increased by $28 million to counteract the impacts of delay on our buses. And cumulatively, that growing delay has cost us $155 million over that 9-year period from 2014 to 2022. So that is comparable to launching a new rapid bus route about every 2 years. That is the real opportunity cost of delay in this region. So I want to share some of the key findings from this report. I'll highlight several of the points on this slide in the following slides, and there's also more details available in the resource slides. The first point that I want to make is that passenger delay is concentrated on key corridors. We know that our buses carry 30 to 60% of the people traveling on these corridors during the peak hours. And we also know that 40% of the delay that our customers experience is concentrated on less than 10% of the transit network. So that suggests that strategic bus priority investments can allow us to address much of the delay experienced by our customers. And this delay remains concentrated in the Vancouver UBC subregion, but we have seen that the share of bus delay is growing fastest in the southeast, the northeast subregions, followed by Maple Ridge, Pitt Meadows, and the southwest subregion. So this really is a regional challenge. The pandemic lockdown also gave us a unique opportunity to quantify the impacts of delay by comparing travel times immediately before and during the lockdown. So we excluded the time that buses spent at bus stops and just focused on the time that buses were in motion. And we found that overall, bus customers experienced 14% faster speeds system-wide, and some of the most well-traveled sections of the bus network were up to 25% faster or better. So this gives us some indication of how much faster and more reliable buses could be if they were protected from congestion all the time. So how do we get to those solutions? The 2023 Bus Speed and Reliability Report includes detailed subregional profiles that highlight key hotspots with more clarity and granularity than before. And this is going to help us work with municipal staff to identify areas for further study and generate future transit proposals. The report also highlights 20 corridors, or what we're calling profile areas, to understand the nature of delay in a variety of contexts. And we selected these profile areas based on the level of passenger delay, the priorities identified in Transport 2050, and a representative sample of different road typologies and locations across the region. We also excluded some corridors where bus priority projects were currently underway. So here's an example of a profile area. Each one describes the local and regional significance and shows delay hotspots. And the second part of the report will diagnose some of the causes of that delay and probe for potential solutions. So that concludes my overview of the first part of the 2023 Bus Speed and Reliability Report. This report is now available on our website and includes information I described about the impacts of delay, insights from the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown, sub-regional trends, and 20 profile areas. This summer, we'll return with the second part of this report, which will focus on the results of the bus priority infrastructure that has been delivered so far, as well as information about the causes of delay and potential solutions in those 20 profile areas. So as I close out, I just want to underscore that the 2022 investment plan included expanded municipal funding for bus priority measures to offset the cost of expanded service. But to achieve the targets that we established in the 2022 investment plan and to increase the effectiveness of future bus priority expansion, TransLink and municipalities need to quickly increase the volume and effectiveness of bus priority measures, and the 2023 Bus Speed and Reliability Report will help us inform some of that work. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Esmondson.
Yes, thank you for this report. I find it very good as somebody that has been in the front lines driving transit buses and seen the effects of congestion, delays, and basically not making our services as reliable as it should be. So when you're talking about the municipal funding and increasing the municipal funding, I'll give an example of what I think is an issue that is slowing down buses is light signalization. Or I'll give an example, not picking on one because it happens around the region, but when I was driving down Hastings Street, when you get from Ogama all the way through into Vancouver, there's a lot more signal lights put in, and it's probably for the cities for pedestrian, but you wind up going from red light to red light to red light. So when you're looking at working with municipalities, are we looking at coordinating light signalization along corridors and getting a better traffic flow, because I understand the city's ideas is they want more pedestrian access, more pedestrian crossings and stuff, but at the same time, you're reducing speed travel of all traffic, including buses. And even if we go into BRT and you have all these extra lights that are not coordinated, you're not going to be able to make your increased speed. So is that one of the measures you're looking at? And the second part of that, are you looking at on a more regional, from traffic flows between municipalities, so that that flow along those major corridors, let's say from Vancouver, Hastings, Burnaby, or out in my region from Port Moody, Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam out, that we try to coordinate that? Is that's one question, so I'll leave you to make you an answer. Thank
Sure.
you.
Yeah, thank you. So what you're describing is transit signal priority, and there's basically two different varieties of transit signal priority. There's passive signal priority, where we just kind of change the egg timers on all the signals to make sure that we can catch a green wave for buses. There's active transit signal priority, where the bus is communicating with the signal. That is a more challenging version of signal priority, because you have to have different technology for different municipalities. We've certainly explored that. We're still in early days of looking at that, but that passive signal priority is something that we can implement today.
Because the passive would be there's a few examples in the region of queue jumpers where there's a little white bar to let you get through that, but that generally requires an extra queue lane to go around it. I support those type of measures, but I do think it's a more complicated one, but I think if funding and stuff can help cities get into more technology-based, where we can, like in Coquitlam, we have a traffic control room. We have the ability for, in that control room, when traffic is backing up more in one area, we can override the lights, move that through. But it's just, from what I've seen, is you're competing ideas from different issues. One, to increase pedestrian ability, but at the same time, the cause and effect of those decisions. Thank you.
Mayor Pahal.
Thank you, Chair, and to staff. I know you showed the AM peak. Did you notice similar mode share in PM, or is it a different story?
It's very similar in the PM. It's pretty symmetrical.
That's good to know. And just so I'm reading it right, and I'll use 200 Street Corridor as an example. So that means that between 58% and 33%, depending on the point in there, of human beings on that corridor are taking the bus.
That's a great summary.
That's really interesting, because we always hear that narrative that nobody takes transit out in Langley. So it's really quite surprising to see that in some areas, 60% of people on 200 Street are on the bus. That was really illuminating. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Thank you. Director McCutcheon.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I saw this report in the committee, and I think it's excellent. We've just been talking about all the cost constraints that we have, and this to me is just it's one of the ways that we actually, as local government, really can be part of the solution from a cost perspective, but then perhaps more importantly, the result of that is a really efficient system. I did want to point out that I'd asked about this in the thing, that this actually doesn't include pass-ups, right? So, for example, a number of the buses out to UBC, somebody that can't even get on the bus doesn't even get captured in this. I understand why, because it's a different solution, but just to sort of point that out. You've touched a little bit on this in a previous answer, but I'm just wondering if you can elaborate a little bit more on sort of what we can be doing to fix this issue.
I think the most important thing that the leaders around this table can do is to communicate to staff that they have your support for implementing bus priority measures, and that might include bringing difficult decisions to you about reallocating road space. We've also had some great success with really modest changes like bus stop balancing or bus bulbs that allow the bus to stop in the travel lane, that have incredible benefits for the travel time of the bus, but also great benefits for the business community and congested commercial corridors.
And if I may just add, excuse me, I want to emphasize that when we have been doing these projects, as Stephen mentioned, such as bus stop balancing or what we call bus bulbs, we're taking that savings, where we're saving time, we're reinvesting it into the system. So we're able to there make what we call customer-facing improvements at no extra cost by being more efficient with the services we have. Excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mayor Buchanan.
Thank you very much. Just in terms of the numbers you give us, in terms of the percentages of delay, just from can you provide a bit more information on how you quantify and characterize peak hour delays?
Yes. So each bus is spitting out millions of data points every day, little GPS breadcrumbs that we can track, and we compare that all the travel times that we observe for a bus in a given segment of the roadway at a given time, and we look at the distribution of those travel times. So we compare the 50th percentile travel time versus the 20th percentile travel time. So that's basically what is the bus doing on a typical day versus what is the bus doing on the best day of the week, and we call that delay. And then we multiply that by the number of people that are on that bus, and we do that for every segment of the road between bus stops for every hour of the day. And so that's what you're seeing in the report is the passenger hour of delay on some of those maps and just the bus delay on some of the other maps.
Okay, is there anything else that you use beyond that in looking at?
We also look at the total variability of the trip. So looking at the best day of the week, the 20th percentile versus the worst day of the week or the 80th percentile, just to get a sense of how difficult is it for us to schedule the travel time for this bus accurately. And what we want to do is get the distance between the 20th and 80th percentiles as narrow as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Little.
Thank you, Chair West. In the absence of one of our colleagues from Vancouver at the moment, I feel I should still step in and say that even though the report focuses on areas that are experiencing rapid growth in delays, there's a law of diminishing returns at play here, and overwhelmingly, it's the city of Vancouver that is experiencing the kinds of delays, and obviously it's commuters from and to our regions that are passing through that area. So it's focusing on the rate of delays increasing outside of the region, but it's because the delays couldn't grow anymore in the inner portions. So without one of the City of Vancouver reps here, I thought I would just highlight that point.
I will just reiterate that we do know that the majority of delay that our customers experience is in the Vancouver UBC subregion, as I mentioned. 40% of the delay that our customers experience is concentrated on 10% of the network. Now, not all 10% is in Vancouver. We are seeing delay growing faster outside the Vancouver subregion, and we have been working with Vancouver to implement bus priority measures such as bus stop balancing, bus bulbs, reallocating some of the rush reg lanes to bus-only lanes. So we do appreciate the work that our colleagues at Vancouver are doing, and just want to underscore that we have to do more, and we have to do more outside of Vancouver as well.
Thank you. Councillor Asmussen is going to use his 2 allotted questions for the day on the first item.
Do you do an analysis? A few years back, Vancouver and some other cities reduced their parking restrictions, let's say in the mornings from 9 a.m. to 8:30, same in the evening from 6 to 5:30. Have you done an analysis on bus delays and service delays and presenting that information to this board, to the cities, because with congestion growing, that rush hour is longer, and taking that is increasing delays. So have you done analysis, and we'd be presenting that?
We have. That was one of a really early example of a win for the bus priority program on Hastings. They extended the hours of the bus lane, and what we saw was that travel times for the bus were very long immediately before and immediately after the PM peak. And when they extended those bus lanes to 7 p.m., that second peak disappeared. And we did share that with senior leadership at Vancouver, and I think that helped them make the decision to continue those longer hours of the bus lanes. But your question is, have we presented that to city councils? We'd be happy to bring some of this information to city councils if they're interested in learning more about the specific challenges in their jurisdictions.
And I'm just saying it's a simple fix that doesn't cost a lot. I know some of the businesses and areas complain, but if we're moving more to transit, that also, if we're moving to by transit, that's going to bring more people on transit to their businesses also. So it'd be good information to have and something to maybe an inexpensive fix.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Johnstone.
Thank you for this. At the risk of being a little bit parochial, my biggest delay concern in my community is 91A House interchange, which is MOTI area, and I know there's other areas in the major road network and other areas in the city that have MOTI authority over them effectively. And I just want to know what kind of relationship you're having with MOTI and how you're bringing this information to them and how they can help us in solving some of the problems that are in their jurisdiction.
It's a great question. You're correct. There's a lot of locations where buses are delayed either on ministry property or adjacent to ministry property, and some of the challenges might be the way that the signals are operated to get motorists on and off the highway. So we have put together a packet of all the locations that we're aware of where we could improve buses on ministry property to share with staff, and I'll keep you updated on how those conversations go.
Thank you. And Mayor Pahal, and then we'll move on.
Thank you. And just one final follow-up. So if we because it's a partnership, if we as municipalities worked on certain corridors to speed up bus service, would TransLink then, knowing that there's savings, reinvest that into those same corridors so that instead of a bus every, say, 15 minutes, it's down to 12? And then kind of and I'm not talking about rapid bus or bus rapid transit, but just like the local bus service or FTN. Would you sort of look at prioritizing increased service in those areas where municipalities have partnered to put in priority measures overall?
At the risk of answering for Sarah, the answer I believe is yes, and we do have a good track record for that. For example, we were able to save a bus on line 7 when we did bus stop balancing, and we were able to reinvest that bus in Vancouver for a new peak hour service. And in the guidelines for our funding program, we also say that we will reinvest the savings that we achieve in the municipalities.
Thank you very much. Someone move receipt. Move second. All those in favor, opposed, carried. 4.2 Broadway Subway Support Policies Agreement. Sarah.
Thank you very much. So joining me for this item is Zach Bennett. Excuse me, I'm having a frog in my throat this morning. He's a senior planner on our partner planning team that works really closely with municipal staff on transportation and land use coordination. So I just have a few remarks. We don't have any slides for this item. A supportive policy agreement is one type of the project agreements that TransLink enters into for major projects. So supportive policy agreements, or SPAs, sometimes people call them SPAs, but I like SPAs myself, are signed agreements with TransLink and the host municipality for a major project that sets out commitments for land use and transportation actions by each party that are outside of the direct scope of the project, but have significant influence on achieving the benefits and targeted outcomes of the project. So the origin of these agreements is from actually the 2014 Mayor's Vision, and it's been reinforced in policy and strategy since then, in recognition that the region makes significant investments in major projects, and it's prudent to seek every opportunity to create conditions for the success of these investments. And so there are three main areas, so initiatives related to land use and transportation planning and policy, housing, including affordable housing, urban design, transportation demand management to support the outcomes, collaboration with the partner agencies, excuse me, so the municipalities, TransLink, as well as Metro Vancouver and the province on key initiatives, and then formal monitoring and reporting on both the commitments in the agreement and also on the related outcomes, so the performance measures. And this monitoring and reporting report you have in your package is one of, this monitoring reporting is a primary means of ensuring that the signatories are living up to the commitments. And so in your package today is the monitoring report for the Broadway Subway Supportive Policy Agreement, which TransLink and the City of Vancouver signed in 2018. And this was the first such type agreement in the region. And so this is an annual report provided to both the Mayor's Council and the TransLink Board, and documents the specific initiatives from the agreement, and it provides an update on the progress of each of those commitments. For your awareness, in 2022, TransLink signed supportive policy agreements with the City of Surrey, Langley City, and the Township of Langley for the Surrey-Langley SkyTrain project. And there was also a multi-party overarching agreement for which the province of BC was also a signatory. And we will be providing the Mayor's Council with annual monitoring reports for those agreements beginning next year. And as the planning work that is now advancing for the major projects identified in the 10-year priorities, we are including the development of supportive policy agreements for those projects. And when they are drafted, they will be brought forward to the Mayor's Council before approval of a project is sought. And with that, Zach and I are happy to take any questions you may have about the materials we provided.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome, Councillor Kirby-Young. Any questions, comments? Yeah, Mayor Sager?
Sorry, just a quick question. Is there a population base that you attach or some metric to these agreements?
In terms of what would trigger requiring agreement,
Thank you, that's the rate.
It's tied to the whether what we would call it a major project, and so we anticipate that a supportive policy agreement would be the expectation of the Mayor's Council for further rapid transit projects, including bus rapid transit. So if part of a major project is being hosted in a small municipality, and if part of the project's outcomes are tied to, like forecasted outcomes are tied to assumptions being made about how that municipality will, for example, transform in terms of land use, then yes, we would have a supportive policy agreement with that municipality.
So, but it's not necessarily triggered by a population expectation for that area?
No, it's not. We track the population as well as part of monitoring it. We say, we know the population of this municipality is expected to grow, so we report out on, is it growing as expected?
I see. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no further comments, motion to receive. Move second. All's in favor, opposed, carried. 4.3, 2023 Committee Terms of Reference and Work Plan. Mike Buda.
For sure. There's actually, in your agenda package, there's 3 successive reports on from each of the 3 committees on their terms of reference and work plan. I won't go through the reports. You've got them. In fact, you saw basically a template of these work plans in terms of reference at the January meeting. So each of them obviously differ in the work plan elements. The work plans are specific to each of the committees, and they simply draw from the Mayor's Council work plan that you approved back in December and then again in January. The only change or distinction I want to make is, as you know, as an interim measure, we had set up these committees to begin meeting jointly with counterpart board committees. While there's as you may know, there's a joint task force of Mayor's Council and board members looking at some of our governance arrangements to come up with some more lasting ways for our committees to work together. We thought as an interim approach, we would do it the way we have been in the last month. I think we've got some good feedback and reflections from Mayor's Council members and some questions about how this works. So there's been the chair of the Mayor's Council and the chair of the board have agreed. Why don't we just step back just a little bit on this? It can let the task force finish its work and make sure we come up with the kind of mechanisms that we need for those bodies to meet effectively together. So the only change is actually between these 3 reports that it make is that we feel like there's a lot of overlapping responsibilities between the Mayor's Council Finance Committee and the Board Finance and Audit Committee. And so where there's reports that are 100% overlapping, it probably does make sense for those committees to meet together. But then otherwise, all other items and discussion will happen separately, and both in the Finance Committee and then for the other 2 committees would be entirely separately until we have the results of the task force, and then we can have a fulsome discussion with the entire body. So actually, Mr. Chair, if the body wishes, items 4.3, 5.1, and 6.1 are all very similar. It could be moved and seconded and considered at the same time.
No, I'd like to do them individually. No. Motion to, we need to, I think actually there's recommendations. So mover and seconder for those recommendations. Move second. Questions, comments? None. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, report of the Finance Committee. Well, it was that, right? Okay, so that will take us down to, well, we did that one as well. My goodness, Mr. Buda, look at you. Other business? None? Motion to adjourn. Second. All's in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Great, thank you.
How's that?
Thank you. So maybe we can take a 10-minute break. It just takes us a few minutes to change the room into closed session mode. Feel free to, there's a coffee next door, and we'll recommence maybe at 5 minutes to 10.
Make sure someone tells George about this.